The moment you finish your last bite of food, a countdown begins. Not the kind that measures hunger or calorie burn, but something far more profound. Deep inside your cells, a timer is ticking, and when it finally goes off, your body does something that sounds almost impossible. It starts eating itself. Not in the way that harms you, but in the way that saves you, in a way that scientists believe could be the closest thing we have ever found to a biological fountain of youth. And the most astonishing part? Most people never reach the moment when this actually begins. We live in a world obsessed with what to eat. Superfoods, supplements, protein ratios, anti-inflammatory diets. Billions of dollars are spent every year trying to optimize what goes into the human body. But what if the real secret wasn't about adding anything at all? What if the most powerful healing mechanism your body possesses is only unlocked when you stop? When you give your cells not more fuel, but silence? Space. What if the answer wasn't on your plate, but in the pause between plates? This is the story of autophagy, and once you understand what it is, how it works, and exactly when it switches on, you will never think about fasting, aging, or your own body the same way again. Inside every single cell of your body, right now as you read or listen to this, there is a quiet war being waged. Proteins misfold, mitochondria wear out, cellular debris accumulates like trash in a city that never sleeps. Your body produces this waste constantly as a natural byproduct of simply being alive. And for most of your life, especially when food is always available, this garbage quietly piles up. You don't feel it at first. But over years and decades, that accumulation becomes the biological foundation of fatigue, inflammation, cognitive decline, and accelerated aging. The body you live in is slowly becoming cluttered, and most people have no idea it's happening. But nature, in its extraordinary wisdom, already designed the solution. Long before modern medicine, long before supplements or biohacking existed, evolution built a recycling system directly into your cells. A mechanism so elegant, so precise, that when a Japanese scientist named Yoshinori Ohsumi finally uncovered how it worked, the entire scientific world stopped and paid attention. In 2016, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, not for discovering a new drug, not for engineering a therapy, but for revealing a process that your body already knows how to do on its own. He called it autophagy, from the Greek words meaning self-eating. The name sounds unsettling, but what it describes is nothing short of miraculous. Autophagy is your body's built-in cellular cleanup and recycling system. When it activates, specialized structures called autophagosomes move through your cells like intelligent janitors, identifying damaged proteins, broken organelles, and dysfunctional mitochondria. They wrap around this debris, pull it apart, and break it down into its raw molecular components. Those components are then repurposed, converted into clean energy, or used to build new, healthy cellular material. Your body is literally dismantling its weakest parts and rebuilding itself from the inside out. When Ohsumi first observed this in yeast cells, he was watching something ancient, something that evolution had preserved across nearly every living organism on Earth. When he deprived those yeast cells of nutrients, tiny vesicles inside the cells began engulfing debris at a visible rate. The cell wasn't dying. It was surviving by consuming its own damaged parts. It was cleaning house to stay alive. And when researchers began looking for this process in human cells, they found it. Same mechanism, same elegance, same profound implications. Here is what changed everything. Scientists realized that autophagy doesn't just keep cells alive in times of scarcity. When it functions properly, it actively slows down aging, reduces the risk of cancer, protects against neurological diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, strengthens immune function, and enhances metabolic health in ways that no pill has ever fully replicated. And when autophagy breaks down, when it slows or stops because the body is constantly fed and never given a moment of rest, disease takes root, inflammation rises, cells malfunction, the biological clock accelerates. The question that scientists then turned their attention to was both simple and revolutionary. If autophagy is this powerful, can we turn it on deliberately? Can we control when and how deeply the body enters this repair state? And the answer that emerged from years of research was both surprising and deeply accessible. Yes, and the most effective way to do it requires nothing more than not eating. Fasting, one of the oldest human practices in history, once dismissed by modern nutrition as extreme or even dangerous, turned out to be the most direct biological switch for activating autophagy. But here is where it gets complicated, and where most people get it completely wrong. Autophagy doesn't switch on the moment you skip a meal. It isn't triggered by a single missed breakfast or a few hours without snacking. The process has a timeline, and understanding the timeline is the difference between a surface-level fast and a deep cellular transformation. In the first few hours after your last meal, your body is still running on the glucose circulating in your bloodstream. Insulin levels are elevated, signaling to your cells that nutrients are abundant. In this fed state, the body's priority is growth and storage, not repair. mTOR, a master regulator of cellular growth, is active and essentially suppresses autophagy. Your cells are building, not cleaning. Nothing dramatic is happening at the cellular level, even if the clock has started. As you move past the 4 to 6 hour mark, blood glucose begins to drop. Insulin starts to fall. Your body begins pulling stored glycogen from the liver to keep blood sugar stable. This is still normal metabolic territory. Your body is managing its existing resources efficiently, but it hasn't entered any kind of stress or repair state. You might feel slightly hungry, but energetically you're fine. The cleanup crew has been called, but they haven't arrived yet. Somewhere between 8 and 12 hours is where the metabolic shift begins to quietly accelerate. Glycogen stores in the liver are running low. The body starts transitioning toward fat as its primary fuel source. Ketone production begins to ramp up. Insulin levels are meaningfully low now, and this is the first environment where the cellular sensors that govern autophagy, particularly AMPC, begin to stir. AMPC is an energy-sensing enzyme that essentially detects when the cell's fuel is running low. When it activates, it begins suppressing mTOR and nudging the cellular machinery toward maintenance mode. You think of it as the first whisper of a shift, the tide beginning to turn. But autophagy at this stage is still minimal. The cleanup crew has clocked in, but they are just starting their shift. The 16-hour mark is where things begin to genuinely change. This is the threshold that researchers most commonly point to as the beginning of meaningful autophagy in humans. By this point, your body has been without a significant glucose supply for long enough that it is no longer simply managing stored energy. It is actively prioritizing repair. mTOR suppression is deepening. Autophagosomes, those cellular recycling vesicles, are forming and moving through your cells in increasing numbers. The debris collection has begun in earnest. What does this feel like? For many people, surprisingly good. Mental clarity sharpens as the brain shifts to running on ketones, which are a cleaner and more efficient fuel source than glucose. Some people describe a feeling of calm alertness, a mental lightness that feels different from their normal fed state. Others experience mild fatigue or hunger discomfort as the body continues adapting. Both are normal. What's happening beneath the surface is the same regardless. Your cells are beginning to clean themselves, and the longer you stay in this state, the deeper the process goes. At the 24-hour mark, you have crossed into what researchers describe as the repair zone. This is no longer mild or preliminary autophagy. This is full cellular recycling mode. Glycogen reserves are essentially depleted. Insulin is at its lowest point. Fat metabolism is dominant, and ketone levels are rising substantially. In this environment, the body is not just cleaning damaged proteins. It is targeting entire organelles, particularly mitochondria, in a specific sub-process called mitophagy. Dysfunctional mitochondria, the ones that generate excessive oxidative stress and contribute directly to cellular aging, are being identified and broken down. In their place, the raw materials are being repurposed to build new, more efficient mitochondria. This is not a small thing. Mitochondrial health is one of the most critical factors in both longevity and cognitive function. When your mitochondria are clean and efficient, your cells produce energy without excessive damage. When they are dysfunctional and accumulating, every process in your body becomes noisier, more inflammatory, more prone to error. Fasting for 24 hours and triggering deep mitophagy is essentially performing maintenance on the engines that power every cell in your body. The immune system also undergoes a remarkable process at this stage. Studies have shown that extended fasting can trigger the regeneration of immune cells. Old, worn-out white blood cells are cleared away through autophagy, while stem cell activity increases to produce new, more responsive immune cells. It is a biological reset button for your body's defense system, and it happens in the space of a single day without food. Growth hormone levels also begin rising significantly during this phase. This is one of the body's protective responses to fasting, a way of preserving lean muscle tissue while fat is being metabolized. Far from causing the body to break down muscle, this hormonal shift actually helps maintain and protect it. The combination of elevated growth hormone, deep autophagy, and dominant fat metabolism creates a cellular environment that researchers increasingly associate with the biological markers of slower aging. But the story doesn't end at 24 hours. For those who continue further, the transformation deepens in ways that science is only beginning to fully understand. At 36 hours, the body enters what many researchers consider the peak window of autophagic activity. Everything that has been building across the previous day and a half reaches its most intense expression. Cellular recycling is running at maximum efficiency. Damaged structures are being dismantled systematically. Proteins that would have contributed to inflammation, disease risk, or neurodegeneration are being broken apart and repurposed. The body, stripped of any external fuel source, has turned entirely inward, and the result is extraordinary. Growth hormone levels can surge up to 5 times their baseline at this stage. This hormonal environment, combined with peak autophagy and minimal insulin, creates a biological state that researchers have directly associated with reduced cancer cell proliferation, improved brain function, enhanced metabolic sensitivity, and a measurable slowdown in the biomarkers of cellular aging. This is not theoretical. Studies in both animal models and human subjects have documented these shifts. The 36-hour window appears to represent the biological masterpiece that deliberate fasting can unlock. And yet this is also the point where wisdom becomes as important as science. Because beyond this window, the calculus begins to change. The human body is extraordinarily resilient, but it is not infinitely patient. When fasting extends well beyond the 36-hour mark without careful preparation and monitoring, the balance tips. Cortisol levels rise as the body interprets prolonged food absence as a threat rather than a strategy. Muscle tissue may begin to be broken down for gluconeogenesis. Immune function, rather than being enhanced, can begin to be compromised. The mental clarity that characterized the earlier stages can be replaced by brain fog, irritability, and exhaustion. What was a tool becomes a stressor. What was repair becomes damage. This is the line that separates autophagy from starvation, and it is a line that is easy to cross without realizing it. Starvation is not just a longer fast. It is a fundamentally different biological state, one where the body is no longer performing strategic repair but entering chaotic survival mode. The intelligence of autophagy gives way to the desperation of starvation, and that distinction matters profoundly for both safety and outcomes. The real art of fasting, the thing that the science consistently points toward, is not about pushing to extremes. It is about understanding the rhythm, respecting the window, knowing that more is not always better, and that the body responds most powerfully not to punishment, but to precisely timed stress followed by recovery. This is also why autophagy is not the exclusive domain of multi-day fasting. For most people, most of the time, the 16 to 24-hour window is where the meaningful biology lives. A daily 16-8 eating pattern, where you eat within an 8-hour window and fast for 16, keeps the cellular cleanup system regularly active without requiring significant disruption to daily life. An occasional 24-hour fast deepens the process and gives the body a more complete repair cycle. And for those with experience, medical clearance, and specific goals, a carefully managed 36-hour fast can deliver the deepest autophagic reset available through dietary practice alone. What makes this even more remarkable is that fasting is not the only door into this cellular state. Exercise, particularly high-intensity training, temporarily depletes glycogen and creates a fasting-like metabolic stress that triggers autophagy through similar pathways. Cold exposure activates cellular stress responses that overlap with autophagic signaling. Sleep, deep and consistent sleep, gives the body uninterrupted hours of repair time and is one of the most underappreciated autophagy triggers available to everyone. Specific compounds found in food also play a role. Polyphenols like those found in green tea, turmeric, dark berries, and red wine activate AMPC through dietary means, mimicking some of the signaling that fasting creates. Spermidine, found in aged cheese, mushrooms, and wheat germ, has been shown in research to directly induce autophagy. These are not replacements for fasting, but they are real contributors to a lifestyle that keeps the cellular cleanup system running efficiently. Sleep deserves particular mention. During deep sleep, the glymphatic system in the brain becomes dramatically more active, flushing out metabolic waste, including the amyloid beta plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. This is autophagy's neurological partner, a parallel cleaning process that operates most powerfully when you are unconscious and undisturbed. People who consistently sleep 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep are essentially giving their brains a nightly cleanup that their waking life cannot replicate. The implications of all of this extend far beyond weight loss or even longevity. They touch on how we understand disease, aging, brain health, and the very nature of what it means to take care of your body. For decades, the dominant model of health was additive. Take this supplement, eat this food, add this nutrient, but autophagy research is pointing toward a complementary model, one where subtraction is equally powerful. Where giving the body nothing, at the right time and for the right duration, triggers a cascade of repair that no supplement has ever fully replicated. There is something deeply humbling about this. The most sophisticated repair system in the known universe already exists inside you. It was designed by 3.5 billion years of evolution. It doesn't need to be purchased or prescribed. It needs only to be activated. And the activation switch, in its most direct form, is simply the willingness to wait, to resist, to let the silence between meals become the space where healing happens. People who fast regularly, who build this rhythm into their lives consistently over months and years, often describe something beyond the physical changes. They describe a different relationship with hunger, one where the absence of food no longer feels like deprivation but like a signal that something beneficial is happening, a shift in identity around eating from reaction to intention, from appetite as a command to appetite as information. That psychological shift, combined with the measurable biological benefits, is part of why researchers who study longevity cultures around the world keep finding that moderate, consistent caloric restriction and periodic fasting appear in nearly every population associated with exceptional health span. The sweet spot that science has identified, the window most associated with meaningful beneficial autophagy without significant risk, sits between 16 and 36 hours. That is a wide range deliberately, because the right point within that range depends on the individual, their metabolic health, their experience with fasting, their activity level, their goals. A 16-hour fast is accessible to almost anyone and creates real benefit. A 24-hour fast is a meaningful step deeper, appropriate for those who have built some fasting experience. And 36 hours, done occasionally and deliberately, represents a full cellular reboot that the research suggests carries some of the most impressive longevity-associated biological changes available through lifestyle alone. Beyond 36 hours, without medical supervision, the risk-to-reward ratio begins to shift. This is not where most people need to go. The biology has already done its most impressive work by this point. The goal was never endurance. The goal was always renewal. So the next time you finish a meal and the familiar pull toward the next snack or the next bite begins, consider this. Somewhere in the hours that follow, a process will begin inside your cells that took a Nobel Prize to reveal that evolution has been refining for billions of years and that your body is completely capable of performing on its own. All it needs from you is time, a little patience, a willingness to let the silence do its work. You are not just skipping a meal. You are giving your body the conditions it was designed to heal in. And somewhere around hour 16, in the quiet space between one meal and the next, your cells will begin the extraordinary work of rebuilding themselves. Not because you told them to, but because that is what they have always known how to do.